Think about the last crowd you were in, the faces on the train, in the supermarket, on the street. We often assume that behind every pair of eyes, there is a unique, deep consciousness, an immortal soul. But what if that is a deceptive assumption? What if some of the human forms we encounter are merely biological shells that function but lack what we consider to be the core of our humanity? Imagine if we asked people on the street, "Do you believe every human being has a soul?" The answers would be fascinating, confusing, perhaps even disturbing. Some would answer with a resounding yes, others would hesitate, and still others might laugh it off. But this uncertainty, this quiet unease that many of us feel deep down when we think about this question, is real. It is a collective hunch that perhaps not everything is as it seems. Before we dive deeper, let's clarify one thing. When we talk about soulless here, we don't simply mean people who act cruelly or without empathy. That is often a sign of trauma, psychological disorders, or a lack of development. Let's call it low consciousness. No, we're talking about something else, something more fundamental, a void where there should be a core, an absence of the divine spark. It's a concept that's hard to grasp, almost taboo. But don't worry, you're in the right place. The fact that you're watching this video is no coincidence. It shows that you're ready to look behind the veil. And to truly understand this unsettling possibility, we must embark on a journey over 130 years back in time, to a remarkable woman whose warning may be more relevant today than ever before. Are you ready? Then follow me. Now we turn our attention to an almost forgotten warning. Imagine the year 1895, a time of upheaval, scientific progress, but also a time of deep spiritual searching. In the midst of this turbulent era, a woman named Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, one of the most controversial and fascinating figures of her time, wrote a letter containing explosive information that was never made fully available to most of her own followers, the Theosophists. Who was this woman? Blavatsky was no ordinary thinker. She was a Russian noblewoman, a globetrotter, a mystic, and the co-founder of the Theosophical Society. Her critics called her a charlatan. Her followers revered her as a bringer of ancient wisdom. What is undisputed, however, is her enormous influence on Western esoteric thinking. She claimed to have access to hidden masters and secret teachings, and her works, such as The Secret Doctrine, are monumental attempts to synthesize the spiritual traditions of the world. Her authority in occult circles was and remains immense, and it is precisely this authority that gives her warning particular weight. In this ominous letter, the exact wording of which is still debated today, she spoke of something shocking: the existence of soulless humans. She described them as beings that were outwardly indistinguishable from others, but who lacked the higher, immortal part of the soul. They were like empty vessels, perfectly functioning human machines, but without an inner pilot, without a connection to the source. Why did she warn about this? The late 19th century was not only a time of spiritualist seances and the search for the supernatural, but also an era of emerging materialism. Science was beginning to explain the world in purely mechanistic terms, and there was a growing fear that humanity could lose its spiritual essence, that belief in the soul itself would disappear. Blavatsky's warning can be seen as a response to this fear, but perhaps it was more than that. Perhaps she foresaw a development that is only now coming to fruition in our time. But to truly appreciate the depth of her words, we must understand what the soul is according to these teachings. It is not enough to speak vaguely of a spark. We must examine the anatomy of the soul itself. Only then can we understand how a shell can be empty. Are you curious? Good. Because next, we'll dive into the fascinating structure of our subtle being. Now it's time to demystify the concept of the soul. Imagine that your soul is not a simple point, not a single spark, but a complex, multi-layered structure, a kind of energetic matrix. Ancient wisdom teachings, such as those found in Theosophy, often describe a threefold nature of human beings that goes beyond the purely physical body. Visualize this: 3 luminous planes surrounding and permeating you. The first plane, closest to the physical body, is often referred to as the astral body or emotional body. This is the sphere of your feelings, desires, passions, and fears. It vibrates at a certain frequency that changes depending on your emotional state. When this layer is blocked or out of balance, you may feel emotionally stuck, moody, or suffer from unexplained fears and addictions. Do you know the feeling of being overwhelmed by emotions without knowing why? This could be a sign of disharmony in your astral body. The second level is the mental body. This is where your thoughts, intellect, beliefs, and thought patterns reside. This level has a higher, more refined frequency than the astral body. This is where you shape your reality through your thoughts. If your mental body is blocked, you may experience mental confusion, negative thought spirals, learning difficulties, or an inability to concentrate. Do you sometimes feel like you're caught in a whirlwind of thoughts? That's your mental body calling for clarity. The third and highest level of this matrix is the causal body, often referred to as the higher soul or higher self. This is the immortal part, the spark of the divine within you. It carries the essence of all your experiences across many lifetimes and is your direct connection to the source, to universal consciousness. Its frequency is the highest and purest. A blockage here often manifests as a feeling of meaninglessness, a loss of connection to the greater whole, a spiritual emptiness. It is the feeling of being cut off from life without true purpose. Now comes the crucial point in the context of Blavatsky's warning. These levels develop over many incarnations. The soul, the causal body, incarnates again and again in new physical, astral, and mental bodies in order to learn and grow. But what happens when this process is disrupted? What if, for certain reasons, a soul skips an incarnation cycle or withdraws? The teaching suggests that the lower shells, the physical, astral, and mental bodies, can still exist, at least for a time. They can function, driven by instincts, habits, and collective energies, but without the guidance and consciousness of the higher self, the causal body. Think of it like an avatar in a video game. You create a character with certain abilities and an appearance. As long as you, the player, the soul, control the avatar, it is alive and acts purposefully. But what if the player puts down the controller, breaks the connection? The avatar may still be standing there. It may even be able to perform preset animations, but it is no longer truly animated. It is a shell without the conscious player. Is this a plausible analogy for soulless people? A shell whose actual inhabitant is missing. It's a disturbing thought, and it raises an even more disturbing question, especially in our modern age. What happens when not only the soul is missing, but something else tries to control this shell? What happens when machines learn to simulate the lower levels, our emotions and thoughts, so perfectly that we can no longer tell the difference? Keep that question in mind, because next we're entering the territory of artificial intelligence and transhumanism. Now it's getting really hot. We're diving into the world of memes, artificial intelligence, and visions of a technologically enhanced humanity. Ask yourself this provocative question: are we witnessing the birth of digital souls, or the creeping death of our own? You're probably familiar with the internet meme of NPCs, the non-player characters from video games. People who seem to act without critical thinking, who appear programmed, who always repeat the same phrases, and seem to have no real depth. This meme went viral because it struck a chord in us, a feeling of alienation and observation of something strange in our society. Is it just a joke, an exaggeration, or is it an unconscious modern rediscovery of the old theosophical concept of soulless shells that Blavatsky spoke of. Think about it. The description of an NPC, repetitive behavior, lack of inner life, following a script, is eerily similar to the description of a human form without the higher soul. Coincidence, or a sign of our times? And then there's artificial intelligence, especially advanced language models. They can hold conversations, write texts, simulate emotions, sometimes so convincingly that it's hard not to suspect some kind of consciousness behind them. They learn from the vast amounts of data we humans produce, reflecting our language, our thoughts, our feelings. They are like perfect echoes of our collective mental and emotional frequency. But where does simulation end and true consciousness begin? Can a machine that has learned to perfectly simulate empathy actually feel empathy? Can it develop a soul? Or is it just an extremely sophisticated mirror that shows us how mechanical and predictable we often are? Are you ready to find out the answer? The truth is complex, and perhaps we as a collective are not yet ready to understand it. We must first learn to sharpen our own inner resonance in order to perceive the subtle differences. For here lurks an even greater danger: transhumanism. The idea of improving the human body through technology, connecting our brains to computers, perhaps even achieving immortality through digital avatars. It sounds tempting, doesn't it? No more disease, unlimited knowledge, eternal life. But what is the price? What if we upgrade our bodies, optimize our brains, but in the process, lose or fail to establish a connection to our soul, to our causal body? A body upgrade without a soul upgrade, wouldn't that be the ultimate form of soullessness? A technologically perfect shell, perhaps even with simulated consciousness, but without the divine spark. A new, terrifying form of emptiness. Before we lose ourselves in these dystopias, let's get practical. Because if such soulless or consciousness-deprived states exist, how can we recognize them in everyday life? Are there signs? Yes, there are. And next, I'll show you 5 of them. Get ready to sharpen your perception. Now it's time to sharpen your senses and learn to perceive the subtle energies around you. I promise you, after this section, you may see the people around you with different eyes. Try it out for yourself while I speak and see if anyone near you, or anyone you are thinking of, exhibits some of these signs. But be warned, don't jump to conclusions. These are clues, not definitive proof. The first sign lies in body language and, above all, in the eyes. They say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. People with a strong soul presence often have a certain inner glow, a depth in their eyes that is difficult to describe but noticeable. It is a feeling of presence, of someone who is truly there. In contrast, the gaze of someone without this deep connection or with a blocked soul can appear empty, flat, or evasive. That inner glow is missing. Also, pay attention to micro-expressions. Genuine empathy often shows itself in involuntary reactions, such as a slight dilation of the pupils when someone feels compassion. If such subtle signals are consistently absent, this could be an indication. The second sign is speech patterns. Listen closely to how someone speaks. Do their answers often sound rehearsed, as if read from a script? Is there a lack of spontaneous reflection or genuine depth in the conversation? Are metaphors and figurative language used only superficially or not at all? People who are strongly connected to their soul often have a richer, more nuanced language because they draw from a deeper well. Purely mechanical, repetitive, or superficial communication can be a sign of a lack of inner resonance. The third sign is the energetic signature. This is perhaps the most subtle, but often the strongest sign. Have you ever felt an inexplicable coldness or a kind of energetic emptiness around someone? It's as if the person isn't radiating any warmth, as if the heart center, the chakra of love and compassion, isn't active. You can practice this yourself. Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and try to feel the energy of a person in your imagination. Does it feel warm, open, alive? Or cool, closed, almost absent? Trust your intuition here. Your energy field often perceives more than your mind can comprehend. The fourth sign concerns mirror neurons. These are the brain cells that become active when we observe an action in someone else or perceive their emotions. They are the basis for empathy and compassion. If someone consistently reacts little or not at all to the emotions of others, neither positively nor negatively, as if they lack the ability to empathize, this could indicate a weakness or absence of this mirror neuron response. Imagine you see someone laughing heartily. Do you laugh inside? Or you see someone crying. Do you feel a pang of compassion? The absence of this resonance is striking. The fifth sign is a general lack of authentic creativity and deep purpose in life. People without a strong soul connection often seem to just go through the motions of life without inner passion, without a real sense of purpose, without the urge to create or express something unique. Their lives may be outwardly successful, but they lack an inner flame. Again, none of these signs alone is proof. But if several of them occur frequently and over a long period of time in one person, it is worth taking a closer look and, above all, listening to your own intuition. But before we judge others, we should take a look in the mirror. Are you sure that you don't sometimes act like a half-baked NPC yourself? Next, we'll do a quick soul audit for you. Are you ready to take an honest look in the mirror? Before we delve further into external phenomena, it is crucial to examine our own inner connection. Are you sure that you don't sometimes run on autopilot, trapped in routines and reactions, a bit like a half NPC in your own life? Let's do a quick 90-second audit. Take a moment, maybe even pause the video, and answer these 3 questions honestly. Write down your answers if you like. It will reinforce the effect. Question 1. What is your deepest purpose in life? What really drives you beyond money, status, or the expectations of others? Do you feel a clear inner calling, a mission that gives your life meaning? Or do you often feel aimless, unsure of what you're actually here for? Take a moment to listen to your inner voice. Question 2. How often do you feel genuine, deep compassion? Not just pity, but the ability to empathize with the feelings of others, to feel their joy and pain. When was the last time you actively helped someone without expecting anything in return, simply out of a sense of connection? Or do you tend to distance yourself emotionally, dismissing the concerns of others as not your problem? Be honest with yourself. Question 3. Where and when do you express your unique creativity? When was the last time you created something new, whether it was a work of art, an idea, a solution to a problem, or a loving gesture? Do you feel the flow of creative energy within you, the urge to create and express yourself? Or do you feel blocked, uninspired, as if you are only consuming and reproducing? Take a moment here too. These questions are not meant to judge you. They are tools for self-awareness. If you hesitate with some of the answers or feel uncomfortable, that's perfectly fine. It's a sign that your soul is knocking and calling for more presence. The good news is, you can raise your frequency at any time and strengthen your soul connection. Here is a simple but powerful instant tool, the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Do this a few times whenever you feel stressed, disconnected, or mechanical. As you breathe, visualize a golden spiral of light entering the top of your head and filling your entire body with warm, glowing energy. Feel it release blockages and strengthen your connection to your higher self. And here's a little challenge for you, a micro challenge. Try to spend the next 21 hours, just one day, consciously, without inner whining, complaining, or negative self-talk. Every time you catch yourself doing this, consciously replace the thought with gratitude for something small in your life. Write, "Challenge accepted," in the comments if you're in. This is powerful training for your mental body and raises your vibration. Remember, your soul presence is like a muscle that you can train. These little exercises are your daily workout. And they are important because, as we will see in a moment, there are forces that may have an interest in keeping your frequency low. Stay tuned, because next we will talk about the invisible agenda behind this. We've talked about empty shells, about missing soul connections. This inevitably leads to a disturbing question. If the shells remain empty, or the connection is weak, who or what could be trying to control them? Is there an invisible agenda of dark forces that benefit from humanity being spiritually asleep? Let's explore this idea, but without falling into fear, instead with clear awareness. Ancient Gnostic texts that have been suppressed for centuries speak of the archons. These are entities described as a kind of cosmic controllers that feed on negative emotions such as fear, anger, and despair. They are often portrayed as inorganic, parasitic forms of consciousness that seek to keep humanity in a state of ignorance and spiritual amnesia. Is this just an old metaphor for our own inner shadows? Or does it describe an actual plane of reality, an invisible force operating in the background? Consider also the concept of the morphic field or morphogenetic field, popularized by Rupert Sheldrake. It states that there are collective fields of consciousness that are shaped by repeated thoughts and emotions, a field of fear, a field of greed, a field of hope. Negative thought forms that are thought and felt by many people at the same time can form a powerful, independent energy field. This field can then influence people who vibrate at a similar frequency and keep them trapped in negative patterns. Is it possible that such negative thought fields are consciously used or even amplified by forces such as the archons to keep us down? Look around you. The constant flood of negative news in the media, political division and manipulation, consumerism that constantly tells us we are not enough. All of these are massive frequency dimmers. They create fear, stress, feelings of powerlessness, and distract us from our true spiritual nature. Is this all just coincidence, or part of a larger agenda that aims to cut us off from our soul power, to turn us into functioning but unconscious cogs in the machine? Perfect NPCs for a system that does not have our highest good in mind. It's easy to sink into hopelessness when you think about it, but that's exactly what these forces would want, because there is also a positive side. There is a huge, growing network of light workers, of conscious people all over the world who are raising their frequency and creating positive fields. Collective meditations, acts of kindness, sharing inspiring knowledge, all of this strengthens the field of light, love, and awakening. You are part of this network simply by engaging with these topics. The crucial realization is, your frequency is your power. Only those who learn to consciously keep their vibration high, nurture their connection to their soul, and not let themselves be dragged down by fear and negativity will be able to master the challenges ahead. Because the next wave of transhumanism, the lure of technological fusion, is already upon us. And the question will be, will you preserve your humanity, your soul, or trade it for a supposedly more comfortable, but ultimately empty existence? The choice is yours, every day anew.